An oxpecker moves across the back of a large African mammal, searching through folds of skin. Its red bill finds a swollen tick and pulls it free. For the host, this may look like help, but a few steps later, the same bird reaches an open wound. This time, it is not removing a parasite, it is drinking blood. So when does a cleaner become an exploiter? And why would an animal tolerate a bird that can help it in one moment and harm it in the next? To an oxpecker, the body of a buffalo, giraffe, rhinoceros, zebra, or antelope is not simply transportation. It is a moving, feeding territory. The bird grips hide and hair with strong feet. It walks across shoulders, necks, ears, flanks, and other places the host cannot easily inspect. Its bill parts hair, searches creases, plucks at attached prey, and probes surfaces where food may be hidden. Ticks are among the most familiar targets. Some are small and difficult to see. Others have already fed and become swollen with the host's blood. When an oxpecker removes one, the bird gains a meal and the mammal loses an external parasite. That single event can benefit both animals. It is the image that gave oxpeckers their reputation as cleaners. But the bird is not following a medical plan. It is foraging. And a living host offers more than ticks. Flies and other arthropods may gather around the body. Skin secretions may collect in protected areas. Damaged tissue may attract insects. Where the skin has already been broken, blood and wound fluids become directly accessible. For the oxpecker, an engorged tick and an open wound are not moral opposites. They are feeding opportunities. That is the simplest answer to why oxpeckers drink blood from animals they appear to help. Blood is available on the same body where the birds already search for food. Once a wound is open, blood and tissue fluids become directly accessible. That does not prove that wound feeding is always easier or more profitable than searching for ticks. But under some conditions, an exposed wound can become a highly valuable feeding site. The bird does not need to understand pain, healing, or partnership. It only needs to recognize a usable resource. But from the host's perspective, the difference can be enormous. Removing a tick may reduce one source of irritation. Pecking repeatedly at sensitive tissue may create another. An oxpecker may repeatedly feed at an existing injury, peck around its edges, or disturb the surface of damaged tissue. Previous studies have described wound feeding as potentially harmful to the host, but the severity and frequency of that harm vary greatly between settings. That does not mean every oxpecker creates fresh wounds. It does not mean every wound is caused by a bird. And it does not mean blood feeding dominates every wild encounter. The evidence changes with context. One influential study observed red-billed oxpeckers feeding on domestic cattle in Zimbabwe. Visible tick feeding occupied only a small portion of the birds' observed foraging time. At open wounds, the birds competed more strongly with one another and were harder for the cattle to dislodge. In that setting, blood appeared to be a particularly valuable food. But cattle are not every host, and managed landscapes are not every ecosystem. Domestic animals may carry different tick communities. They may have different injuries, different opportunities to avoid birds, and different levels of tolerance. A result from cattle cannot automatically be transferred to every buffalo, giraffe, zebra, antelope, or rhinoceros. Observations of wild and captive oxpeckers reveal that contrast. In research combining field observations in Kruger National Park with captive experiments, wound feeding was common under some captive conditions. In that particular set of wild observations, however, wound feeding represented only 3.1% of 558 recorded feeding events. That figure describes one dataset, not a universal rate for oxpeckers across Africa. The same work suggested that preferred ticks matter. Oxpeckers do not treat every parasite as an equally valuable meal. When suitable tick species and life stages are abundant, the interests of the bird and host may align more closely. The bird feeds on parasites, and the host may receive a cleaning benefit. When preferred ticks are scarce, direct feeding from wounds may become more attractive. The relationship can shift without either animal changing its identity. A 2024 study used DNA metabarcoding of Oxpecker fecal samples to detect dietary traces associated with mammalian hosts, ticks, and flies. The results showed substantial variation among individual birds and locations, with a weaker association between diet and mammal host. There is no single menu that describes every oxpecker in every habitat. There is also no single response shared by every host. A large mammal may remain calm while a bird walks over its back or searches through its hair. It may continue grazing, browsing, or resting while ticks are removed. But when the bill reaches a sensitive wound, the reaction may change. The skin twitches. The tail lashes. Muscles contract beneath the bird's feet. The host may shake, turn toward the feeding site, rub against vegetation, or attempt to drive the bird away. These reactions do not prove that the animal understands ecology. They show that different feeding actions can produce different immediate costs. Even then, rejection is not always simple. A bird is small, mobile, and capable of landing again after being displaced. But the available studies do not reveal exactly why every host tolerates some feeding events and rejects others. Tolerance should therefore not be interpreted as approval, friendship, or proof that the interaction is beneficial. This is why the oxpecker cannot be classified by one permanent label. During one feeding event, it may act as a mutualist. The bird gains food by removing an external parasite, while the host receives a meaningful benefit. During another moment, the bird may gain food, while producing little obvious effect on the mammal. Ecologists might describe that outcome as closer to commensalism, although measuring the true cost or benefit in the wild can be difficult. Then the same bird reaches a wound. Now the benefit remains with the oxpecker, while the host may experience irritation, disturbed tissue, interference with healing, or the energetic cost of trying to remove it. That moment moves the interaction toward parasitism. The categories describe outcomes. They do not describe intentions. The oxpecker has not betrayed a partner. It never signed an agreement to remove only ticks. The mammal has not hired a cleaner. Both animals are responding to opportunities and costs created by the other. This also explains why the relationship can vary between host species. Larger mammals may provide more surface area, more stable feeding platforms, and often more parasites. Different hides, behaviors, habitats, injuries, and parasite communities change what food is available and how easily a host can reject the bird. The balance can even change from one part of the same animal to another. At the shoulder, the red bill may remove a tick. Behind the ear, it may search for another arthropod. At an open injury, it may take blood directly. Within minutes, the same oxpecker can move across the boundary between cleaner and exploiter. By late afternoon, the bird leaves the wound. It crosses the host's back, lowers its head into another fold, and pulls free a tick. The relationship has shifted again. Nature does not require cooperation to be pure. A partnership may continue because its costs and benefits change from moment to moment, from host to host, and from one feeding site to the next. The oxpecker does not decide to become a helper in one moment and a villain in the next. It follows food. Sometimes that meal removes a parasite. Sometimes it comes directly from the animal carrying it. The oxpecker's red bill may clean the host or exploit it. The difference is not the bird's intention. It is the cost of the meal.